back at it once again. Not so long of a break this time, but today I'll be talking about Sonic Frontiers. Um, this is a game I've kind of been looking forward to ever since the initial reveal trailer. That must have been a little over a year now, I think. So, overall, my experience with Sonic, I've been playing Sonic games ever since I was a kid. My first Sonic game was actually probably Sonic Colors, which also came out earlier this year, and I enjoyed that a good amount. So, yeah, ever since then, I've basically played just about every Sonic game. Only exception I can think of is I haven't played Lost World, and I haven't played Frontiers yet. Not Frontiers, my bad, Forces. I haven't played Forces yet just because, it's Forces, and generally everyone dislikes it. But I'll get to it eventually. I have it, just haven't gotten around to playing it. So yeah, my thoughts prior to playing the game. I guess since I actually been playing it day one, and I haven't had a whole lot of thoughts other than just like general hype before the game came out. But pretty much all I really have to say is that I was really looking forward to it. I thought that an open zone kind of gaming, as they described it, seemed kind of interesting. Because it seemed to me like it was just like open world, but in like smaller sandbox areas, sort of like how the original 3D Marios were like Sunshine and 64, but on a bigger scale than that. And that's pretty much what you get, but just not as many of those as you would see in 64 and Sunshine. But my guess was pretty much correct. So the overview of the plot is a Sonic game, so like many others, Sonic's friends get in trouble and he has to save them. I don't like anything that's really plot heavy comes up later, and I don't really want to talk about it since this is like this is like pretty much a brand new game, just came out like a little over a month ago. So I won't say nothing about it in case anyone wants to play the game and don't want that spoiled for them. But I will be talking about general gameplay, just a description of it before I get into some pros and cons of the game. Just flying through my stuff today. So general gameplay goes as follows. Sonic needs to find the Chaos Emeralds. He needs to find 6 of them. But to get these 6, he needs these keys. So he has to go find the keys, but the keys are actually the keys are just all locked behind classic Sonic levels. I think I should just call it classic, even though it's more so either like the 2D Sonic and 3D Sonic. I'm just calling it classic because it's different from this open zone gaming, but you used to play through, your more well-known Sonic gameplay, and based on if you meet the criteria of that level, whether it was like, did you beat it in a certain amount of time, did you collect enough rings, did you find all the red rings, those are the criteria that will get you the keys that you need to unlock the emeralds at their vaults. But then to enter a level, in order to get the keys, you have to find these gears, and these gears can only be accessed by either defeating regular enemies, which is less common, or defeating a mini-boss, which is a guarantee to get you a gear. And also, other than getting Chaos Emeralds through keys, at least like 2 per world you have to get through mini-games involving the Coco, I think they're called, and one of Sonic's friends. Let's see. So yeah, you get the gears to open the levels, and then so you have to fight either a regular enemy or a mini-boss. In addition to this, just like general exploration-wise, you also have these, I think they're called like, actually I don't remember what they're called, but they are something that, they're kind of just like a collectible, similar to the very, very large in size, quantitative wise. The what were they called? The ones from Breath of the Wild, the Kokiri or some. I don't know why I'm blanking. I'm a Zelda fan. I should be ashamed of myself. But anyway, there's like 900 of them in Breath of the Wild. And of course, obviously, most people aren't going to do that. That's a similar thing in this game. They're just scattered everywhere. They are generally either found by defeating enemies, using a Cycloop. Why am I forgetting every name? The Cyclone, whatever it's called. The new, move Sonic has. Or through a platforming challenge, which you can just find all around the open world. And to progress the plot, you have to find enough of them in order to speak to certain characters at certain places. So it emphasizes actually exploring the world, not just skipping to all the cutscenes, which I thought was creative. In fact, it's similar to in the way that Kirby and the Forgotten Lands makes you find a certain amount of water leaves before you can proceed to the boss of that area. So you can't just fly through, which I appreciate since I tend to be someone that, likes to collect a decent amount of non-essential items in games. So emphasizing that made me happy, to say the least. Alright. Other than that, there's also fighting combat in a Sonic game for once, which is new. So basically, Sonic can you can actually perform combos either. I'm playing this on a PlayStation, so it's either square or triangle, and occasionally X. But of course, it's different for Switch or Xbox, whatever you're playing on. But it goes as follows: square would be a light attack, triangle is a heavy attack, L and R or dodge, which I'll get into whether I thought that was good or not later on, but this is something new, so I thought that was worth going over. Alright. Pros. What I liked about the game. First off, the fact that I put this as first is going to be saying something. The music that plays during bosses is, in my mind right now, I can't think of any other vocal Sonic song ever that is nearly as good as these. Crush 40 is great and all, but the new band and their vocalist with Sleeping with Sirens did an amazing job with this soundtrack, and I really, really hope that they are back to do whatever the next Sonic game is, because they just blew it out the water. And of course, I'm not the only one who thinks this, as I've seen lots of either jokes or just general things online saying pretty much wow, this is great. I've even seen some things comparing it to Metal Gear Rising and Bury the Light from Devil May Cry 5, which is fair, because those are all also very, very good vocalist songs from games, so good comparison. And I thought that these new songs are among those as some of the best vocal songs in games ever, especially for a boss fight. I talked about this probably a little bit during my general gameplay explanation, but the exploration of the actual islands themselves is actually pretty fun, just kind of going around. In fact, for a lot of the time, I didn't even really care about progressing the plot. I just wanted to explore the world a while first and kind of get to know what's going on where. And I thought that was great that Sega and Sonic Team were able to make just fun islands to run around and explore and find collectibles for. So that was good. Next up, this is definitely a thing that kind of surprised me. The story is actually pretty good. I actually liked it a lot. I don't think I've even really enjoyed a Sonic story at all since Sonic Generations. and that game came out 11 years ago. So, and while I liked Sonic Mania a lot, quite frankly, no one really played Sonic Mania for the story or the plot. It just had that amazing 2D Sonic Genesis gameplay. But yeah, this is like a return to interesting stories, which a lot of people, which kind of seem to fall apart, and a lot of them, like, at least from what I've heard, since I haven't really played them, Lost World and Forces didn't seem to have a good plot from what I've heard from people who have played them. But this is up there with like some of the other ones, like Sonic Adventure 2, I would say. It's got a pretty good plot. Actually, it's up there, but yeah, it didn't surpass Sonic Adventure 2. Sorry. Next up, this kind of went along with the first thing I said, but the bosses themselves, like the actual bosses, not just the mini bosses you find around the map, are incredibly fun to play against. They were the thing I kind of looked forward to the most. It was like, ooh, this is going to be an awesome fight with Supersonic, and I get to listen to a new vocal track, which is probably going to blow me out the water, which it did every time. It was great. Moving along, this next one will kind of depend on what you play the game on, but I am one of the 10 people in the world that actually has a PlayStation 5. So I played it on that, and it runs good. I set the settings to 60 frames, and it was great. But I did, just for testing it out, switch it to 4K, which puts it at 30 frames, and I did not like it at all. And like after a minute, I just switched off because it was like, this is not that great. So a bit of the controversy I've seen a little bit from Frontiers is, how it runs and performs, but if you're playing this on a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S, I'm not quite sure if it runs at 60 for S or not. Probably does, or if you have a really nice PC and you just put it on 60 frames, it'll be great. So the levels that you get the keys for the Chaos Emeralds from, they operate like regular, more true to form Sonic gameplay, whether it be like adventure where it's like 3D is speeding through levels, or if it's like classic 2D Sonic Genesis style. But regardless of the two, they were all really fun, even though none of them took more than 3 minutes to beat. But I think that's fine, because it was really just like, what you get is consistently good. It was just nice and short and sweet. Next up, this is just a little something about the setting, but each of the islands are like distinct from each other in enough ways that I think it didn't really feel like, oh, this is like almost the same. I feel like each of them were just had their own identity enough that it made them distinct. I appreciated that. Didn't take too long talking about that. The next thing is also sort of related to the plot, so I won't get too deep into it, but the game itself added a lot of lore to the Sonic universe outside of, the Archie comics, which I do not plan to ever read because, yeah. But this actually got me thinking a lot about the other stuff that's happened and how it relates to some of the lore from this, so that was really appreciated for me. Alright, time for the cons, things that weren't so great. So I praised the boss battle music, or just about every vocal song in the game, but when it comes to just the standard music that either comes from, I feel like this mainly comes from just like the exploration. I feel like in the, the more classic, true to form Sonic gameplay levels, it was fine, but just like the music that plays when you're just exploring the world, they're pretty forgettable. It's not like a single one that kind of sticks out in my mind, so that was a little disappointing. But I think the the fact that the boss musics were as good as they were is more than enough to make up for that. Next, this is a problem I've seen basically on every platform, regardless if you have an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 or a PC, is that just like running around the like floating platforms, that segments that you do to get like your friendship tokens or whatever they're called, to talk to one of Sonic's friends. You're just like floating platforms, which they do stand out, but I understand that that's just like a gameplay thing. But the thing is, like, if you get more than like 20 feet away from them, it feels like they just completely disappear until you get closer to them, and then they reappear again out of nowhere, which is a little bit odd. I feel like that's understandable for, you know, the last gen consoles to have that, but I think that was definitely something that could have been fixed easily for the next gen consoles. Yeah, but of course that doesn't apply to everyone, since next gen consoles are hard to come by. Next up, I mentioned the combat, and quite frankly, while I like the boss battles, because you're supersonic and you're invincible and you're just kind of on a time limit, the regular combat is just kind of not that great. It really feels just like a button masher, and quite realistically, the only time I ever fought enemies was if there were mini bosses and I needed their gears to open up a regular level segment so I could get keys. And then every other time, if I happened to be in the vicinity of an enemy that noticed me, I would just run away, because it was just not worth fighting. So, but that's also a common complaint I've seen, is that the combat isn't super great. This one is not a huge deal to me, but it's still enough that I wanted to talk about it, is that the level variety seen for the classic Sonic levels, and by that I just mean like the settings, it's either Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, and I don't know what zone it's called, but it's like the City Escape Zone from Sonic Adventure 2. It's just like the middle of the city, basically, because there are tanks and stuff, which is from Sonic Adventure 2. So, like, you know, not a lot of variety, but to me, that's not such a huge deal because the levels themselves were so fun. And next up, I kind of already talked about this a little bit ago, but, like, the mini bosses seem kind of useless because they kind of just get in your way, and you really only need to fight them for their gears. But the combat isn't really that fun, so you just kind of want to avoid them basically at all costs, unless you need a gear to open up a level. Yeah, but that's it. Overall, I think Sonic Frontiers is actually really great. When it first came out, and I was kind of looking at the when I had started but not really finished it, just looking at like general views, I'd seen that it was like really mixed opinions on it. Like Nintendo Life gave it a 4 out of 10. I'm assuming a lot of that is because of how it performs on the Switch. Then it was forget who else said it. Maybe it was IGN, maybe not. Someone, and then another another reviewing site gave it a 7 out of 10, and then I saw it had like a 9 out of 10 on Steam. So I was like, man, these ratings are all over the place. But after playing it, I'm definitely in that 9 out of 10 camp. This was just great new Sonic. Like, over the past 10 years, you know, Sonic's had a really bumpy sort of ride after generations, but without a doubt, this is right up there with Sonic Mania. It's like one of the best Sonic games within the past decade. And this is something I also want to talk about. I just saw this the other day that they're having free DLC come out in 2023, and some of that includes challenge modes, which I assume is just like being able to redo things under certain conditionals. And if that's so, that means you can replay boss battles again. Oh, that was something I forgot to talk about. I don't like that you can't replay boss battles. So if you want to do it again, you have to kind of restart the game, which is a bummer. But if what I'm guessing is true, and that these are just like conditional challenges, like limiting how much time you have or anything, or how much you can get hit, you should be able to play some of these battles, some of these awesome boss battles again, which is good. Yeah, and new story stuff too. That was like the last thing, the wave 3, it was new story. So that's gonna be great. So overall, you know, I kind of said earlier, but I agree with the Steam. What the Steam said, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Solid A minus. You know, a couple bumps, but overall, it was really great. I really liked it. I don't know if this is the direction they'll go with Sonic in the future, but if they do, I really hope that they iron out the combat so that I don't just feel like avoiding it constantly. And keep Sleeping the Sirens. They're an awesome band. Sega team, the Sonic team. Sega's the publisher. What am I thinking? Sonic team needs to keep working them because they did just amazing. Oh. Out of curiosity, I kind of want to hear if anyone has played this. What are your thoughts? If you haven't played it, has this little discussion about it made you want to play it? Let me know in the comments. If you think I did a good job representing what this game has to offer. If I didn't do so, just let me know. Anything's appreciated. Alright, later.